In the late 19th century, America did not rise quietly. It rose through smoke, through furnaces that never slept, through cities built faster than lungs could adapt. And at the center of that transformation stood one man, Andrew Carnegie. He is remembered today as a philanthropist, a library builder, a believer in education and peace. But before the libraries, before the music halls, before the speeches about morality, Carnegie built something else, an empire of steel, so vast it reshaped how America walked, moved, and fought. It made him one of the richest men in human history, and it did so by pushing workers to their limits, turning time into money, and smoke into power. This is not a story about a villain, and it is not a story about a hero. It is a story of how progress is really made, who pays for it, and why the cost is almost never counted until it's too late. In this quieter, more relentless fire of furnaces, an industrial revolution, coal burned day and night, iron melted, smoke climbed into the sky and refused to leave. Cities grew upward and outward at the same time. Bridges stretched where rivers once stopped ambition. Rail lines stitched continents together like scars that never healed. And in that world of smoke and steel, one name will come to define the age: Andrew Carnegie. But Carnegie did not begin as a titan. He began as an immigrant boy, poor, uncertain, and invisible. Born in 1835 in Dunfermline, Scotland, Carnegie entered a world already under pressure. His father was a handloom weaver, a skilled trade being crushed by industrial machines. What once fed a family could no longer compete with steam-powered efficiency. Poverty was not sudden. It was gradual, humiliating, and final. So the Carnegie family did what millions will do soon. They left. In 1848, they crossed the Atlantic and arrived in Allegheny, Pennsylvania. The promise of America was not wealth, it was survival. Andrew was 13. He went to work almost immediately. 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, a few dollars a week. He worked first as a bobbin boy in a textile mill, then as a messenger for the telegraph office. That job changed everything. The telegraph was the nervous system of the new economy. Information moved faster than horses, faster than ships. Carnegie learned to read signals by sound alone. He memorized routes, faces, patterns. More importantly, he watched powerful men talk: railroad executives, investors, industrial planners. He learned how decisions were made before money ever moved. And Carnegie learned a rule that will define his life: control the system, not just the product. By his early 20s, he was working for the Pennsylvania Railroad under Thomas A. Scott, one of the most powerful transportation executives in America. Railroads were not just businesses, they were arteries. Whoever controlled them controlled trade, time, and territory. Carnegie absorbed everything. He invested early in railroads, in bridges, in sleeping cars, in oil ventures alongside a young John D. Rockefeller. He did not invent steel, he did not invent railroads. He did not invent oil. He invested where the future was already moving. But Carnegie's true genius was vertical integration. He understood something most businessmen did not. Owning the final product was not enough. You had to own the raw materials, the transportation, the processing, the labor, the distribution, every single step. By the 1870s, Carnegie turned his focus fully to steel. Steel was stronger than iron, cheaper when produced at scale, and essential to everything modern. Rails, bridges, ships, buildings, weapons. America was expanding westward at a violent pace, and steel was the skeleton of that expansion. Carnegie Steel Company was not merely efficient, it was ruthless. He adapted the Bessemer process early, slashing costs. He brought iron ore fields, coal mines, limestone quarries. He built rail connections directly into his mills. He tracked production numbers obsessively. Waste was treated as a moral failure. And labor was managed as a cost to be minimized. The public image of Andrew Carnegie was that of a cultured gentleman. He spoke of libraries, music, education, and peace. He quoted poets. He funded universities. But inside the mills, the story was different. Steel production was brutal. Molten metal, 12-hour shifts, deadly accidents. Workers replaced as easily as broken tools. The most infamous moments came in 1892 at Homestead, Pennsylvania, when Carnegie vacationed in Scotland. His partner Henry Clay Frick moved to break the Steelworkers Union. Wages were cut, locks were changed, Pinkerton agents were hired. The result was blood, gunfire, deaths, national outrage. Carnegie claimed distance. He claimed regret. He claimed misunderstanding. But the system he designed produced exactly that outcome. This is the paradox of Carnegie. He believed deeply in self-improvement and education, and he built an empire on the exhaustion of others. By the turn of the 20th century, Andrew Carnegie was one of the richest men who had ever lived. He still produced a majority of America's supply. His mills powered cities. His bridges carried commerce. His rails moved armies and settlers alike. Then, in 1901, he did something unexpected. He sold to J.P. Morgan for roughly $480 million, an amount so large it destabilized financial markets. The sale created U.S. Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation in history. Carnegie walked away, and then he began his second life, philanthropy. He gave away more than 90% of his fortune. Libraries, universities, concert halls, scientific foundations, peace initiatives. He believed that dying rich was a moral failure. Wealth, he argued, was a temporary trust held by the capable for the benefit of society. But history does not judge intentions alone. Carnegie helped build modern America. He also helped normalize an economic system where human cost was justified by progress. Steel made cities possible. it also made inequality permanent. Andrew Carnegie was not a villain. He was not a saint. He was a perfect product of the industrial age, an era that believed smoke meant success, that ledgers mattered more than lungs, that power justified itself. And in that sense, Carnegie did not shape history. History shaped him, and through him, it shaped us. Andrew Carnegie proved something the industrial age never forgot, that if you could control the materials, the transportation, and the numbers on the page, you could bend an entire nation to your rhythm. But still was only the beginning, because soon another idea will take over America, not about what was built, but how fast it could be built. A system where workers no longer followed the machine followed a schedule, where efficiency replaced skill, where repetition replaced craftsmanship, and where the real product was no longer steel, but time itself. That story will not be forged in furnaces. It will be assembled one step at a time. And once it worked, the world would never move the same way again.